Welcome back to Reflect. We are twins who do podcast style movie reviews. Today will be on 2018 movie Conrad Michelle, If Words Could Kill. We do a brief synopsis of the film. Mainly we'll be focused on the relationship of the couple in the movie. We'll discuss the mental health of the couple, text messages sent between the two, what led up to one of them dying, and our final thoughts about the film overall. We'll be saying some triggering words throughout, just a warning to everyone listening. The movie is based on a true story, so we'll be mindful of that and for those listening. A brief summary of the film. The movie starts at the end where we see a courtroom scene about the death of a boy named Conrad. The movie then jumps to the past, the events that led up to this death. The film focuses mainly on the teenage relationship between Michelle and Conrad. The movie depicts on how they met, bonded over mental health, and relationships they had with others. It shows from beginning to end what led up to Conrad's death. We see his struggle with anxiety and depression, as well as Michelle's eating disorder. We see throughout how Michelle and Conrad played a part in his death. Also, I just want to mention that the film seems like it was made or created scenes based on their real life text messages. Let's talk about the relationship throughout the movie. Conrad first met Michelle at a pool party in Florida. They both were there for the summer vacation. Her grandmother was friends with Conrad's uncle. We learned that his parents divorced, which he shared with Michelle at their first convo. They bonded on sports, on their mental health, which we'll talk more about later. He cheats on her in the middle of the movie. He states he couldn't do long distance, so he breaks up with her. However, they eventually get back together towards the middle of the movie. Now I'd like to talk about their social networks. They both had siblings, Michelle with one sister and him with two sisters. Michelle also had friends throughout the film. The first friend we saw was not a great friend in my opinion. Michelle would bring up issues, and as a friend, she wouldn't even encourage Michelle to get help. And plus, this friend's mom did not like Michelle. I'm guessing because Michelle was seen as a bad influence to her.
Yeah, maybe.
Later in the movie, Michelle meets two new girls after her first friend stops being friends with her, not wanting to deal with her anymore. We see in the middle of the movie, Michelle gains and loses these friends. They feel she complains so much that they can't handle it. Conrad felt in the movie does have friends, a job, and support a family. Conrad's sister and mom, I felt, were there for him. One scene in the movie in particular, Michelle calls Conrad's sister, telling her that Conrad might do something to hurt himself. The sister calls the mom, and we see the mom rush to the hospital to get him help. I would say there was a few times in movies Michelle did this, like texting or calling the sister or quote-unquote friends about Conrad hurting himself. At the end of Conrad's life, the only person he starts listening to is Michelle, however. After Conrad dies, which we will talk more about his death later, Michelle uses his death as a way to maintain friends. My last point about the social networks we see in the film is that it did not focus on either of their dads, and it barely showed Michelle's mom. Now let's talk about the text messages between the couple. We found like an article saying the real text message between the couple, which we will show just a few of them on screen. You can pause at this point if you would like to. At the beginning of the text messages, they would talk about their problems, which Michelle would give encouraging words to make him feel better, and inspirational quotes. He would say how he wanted to end his life, and she would talk him out of it. However, towards the end of the film, we see Michelle starts getting annoyed and being a negative influence in his life. They compare their relationship to Romeo and Juliet. I feel like every time we watch a movie or a show, they always say, we like Romeo and Juliet.
Especially with teenagers.
Yeah, and then they be like, because we can't see each other. Mm-hmm. But I feel like this doesn't apply in this movie because it's not that they can't see each other, like anybody preventing that. It's the fact that they both just need some therapy. She starts, so at this point, she starts being inspirational, instead encourage him to kill himself, like ways he could do it, and becoming very manipulative. That's like towards the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. We also see her text Conrad after his death saying how much she misses him and how she should have saved him, which we know is not true.
Right, like why is she lying?
Yeah. Now let's talk about one of the most important part of the movie, the couple mental health. Conrad expressed in the movie he had social anxiety, hearing voices saying he's stupid, and he also dealt with depression, which he once was hospitalized as a result. We see this in one scene in the movie. Conrad runs out of his classroom after having an anxiety attack. As mentioned before, Conrad's first suicide attempt we saw in the film was him being hospitalized due to taking a lot of pills. Michelle had an eating disorder we see in the film, and she would work out after each meal and count calories. In the movie, we also see Michelle attempts to take her life after her friend stops wanting to be around her. She puts a rope around her neck, but she takes the rope off after a moment, and instead she starts throwing things around the room. Another scene in the movie that depicts their emotional state was when Conrad talks to like a camera, like back in the day, camera, like handheld
Like
camera.
YouTube type of thing. No, it wasn't YouTube, but he was doing it in his room. His own personal camera.
He said that his family was great, but he always felt he wants more in life. We don't know what that more mean to him, but he just states that. In the middle of the film, Michelle is seen constantly working out and spiraling out of control. Michelle starts to feel neglected as a result of her not having friends. How they both, towards the end of the movie, lean on each other in a negative way. One example of this, when Michelle texts him, "It's okay to die." She even starts pushing him to do it every time he talks himself out of doing it. Towards the end of the movie, we see a shift in Michelle's personality. She starts acting desperate by forcing those two girls, as I mentioned before, to hang out with her, and for him to get rid of himself. She basically says things to Conrad based on the way people treat her. Like every time someone rejects her in her life, she tells Conrad everyone will be fine without him. So basically, she's just projecting on him.
Right.
I also feel at this point in the movie, she tries to get attention by bringing up Conrad's mental health issues with her friends. I feel like Conrad in the movie did not have a shift in personality. He seemed to be always depressed throughout, which we learned through bringing up through his text messages and interactions with others in the film. I feel at the end of the movie, the negative voice, which was mentioned before, telling him he's worthless, has basically transpired into Michelle saying those things basically to him, but not saying worthless, but basically encourage him to. Yeah. I will also say after Conrad dies, she states to her friend that the reason she encouraged him to end his life was because she read an article that states that was the best solution. Like, girl, you dub. Like, please talk this to us where. Like, that article said the best solution for you is to encourage somebody to commit suicide.
Right. So stupid.
So crazy.
All right, so let's talk about the events that led up to the death and his plans to kill himself. As we stated before, the movie started from the beginning as he was sending messages that we learned later was between him and Michelle. The messages basically highlighted that he plans on killing himself that night. However, before, we saw him working on a boat, so he did have a job and then going home to be with his family. I feel like the film just trying to show that he had a family and job, because usually people who was in the depressive state, they don't have all this stuff. In the film, we see that Conrad's first plan, according to the text messages, was to go to the woods and put a bag over his head so he wanted to suffocate himself. However, he changed his mind after speaking with Michelle. He and Michelle kind of Googled different stats and ways of how to kill yourself. Michelle's first suggestion was for him to shoot himself because it would be quicker. Then she saw that maybe carbon monoxide would be better because it would be less painful, so a poison. Conrad decided to agree with Michelle and go with the poisoning himself idea. So as shown in the film, on his first attempt, he decided to start his car in a parking lot. I don't know what the parking lot was from or what store. And he decided to turn the gas on and, do the poison essentially. But it did end up failing. He was messaging Michelle the whole time, and she was upset because he didn't follow through with it. The next day, I'm assuming it was the next day because it didn't show a time frame in the movie. So the next day he spent the day with his sisters, taking them to get ice cream. And then later he went into the garage. He went into the parking lot again. Once again, I'm assuming this was the next day. Just to try to attempt again to kill himself. And he was on the phone with Michelle at this time. So he started the truck with the gas on. Then he got scared and ran out the truck. I guess Conrad said he didn't want his mom to see him in that state. So if he did pass away, he didn't want her seeing him like that. However, Michelle convinced encouraged him to get back into the truck, and so he did. And then after that, we learned that after the phone call with her, he ended up committing suicide. So you see at the beginning, which I mentioned before, that she wasn't encouraging him to kill himself. Now, at this, she coming up with plans, ways he could do it, and he actually eventually do it. Right. So after the death, Conrad did have leave several suicide notes. One was for his mom, one for his dad, and then one was for Michelle. And Michelle at the movie, she's like, I feel so she felt so important because he left one for her too. And then so After she, the little suicide notes, Michelle later acted all concerned as she didn't as if she had no idea that he did this stuff, like telling her friends who were sympathetic because, as we mentioned earlier, initially they didn't want to hang out with her. So, but then this happened, so they was all in support of her and hanging out with her constantly. It seemed as if she liked the attention from his death. As she stated, she was acting like overly innocent and concerned. We see another scene where the cops is looking through Conrad's phone, specifically at the text messages between Michelle and Conrad. Later in the film, Michelle wants to hold a charity event at the baseball field in honor of him. However, it seemed like she was doing it mostly for herself, just to gain more attention. At the end of the event, the cops showed up, and it kind of fast forward the scenes of her being in custody and on trial. So as stated in the movie, it's kept going from the present to the court scene. So there wasn't a lot of details or a linear scene shown of the court case. So what they highlighted in the movie is that they questioned the mom, who said that Conrad did start a new school where he got overwhelmed, that we kind of mentioned before. He had an anxiety attack in class and he walked out. After that happened, she did take him to the hospital for help. She also said he had just graduated high school. He had his license, and there was no sign of him wanting to kill himself later on. In another scene, we see that the opposing lawyer questioning the psychologist. So it's the lawyer for the family of Conrad's that was questioning a psychologist who seemed to be on the side of Michelle. He stated that Michelle was on a new medication and she suffered from involuntary intoxication. However, the opposing lawyer stated that it was no official diagnosis highlighted in the DSM, which is a medical textbook. She basically debunking his reasons for how Michelle acted.
So yeah, they try to come up with something. This is the reason Michelle did these things, encourage him.
Right. So at the same time, it showed her in the court looking unfazed. She didn't even care or nothing. And they also questioned her friends, the friends that she had on and off friendship with. And so one of the friends stated that Michelle was concerned about a text message where she said she was on the phone with him when he died. So just to jump to the ending of the movie, it showed each lawyer giving their closing statements. So mainly the opposing lawyer mainly focused on Michelle, encouraging him to get back into the car after he was scared to follow through. So the scene where I was talking about how he got out of the car initially, so he wasn't going to go through with it until she encouraged him to do it. Mm-hmm. So as a result, the judge made his ruling. Michelle was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 30 months in jail, but she could serve 15 months with good behavior. However, she was allowed to be at home for a supervised during the appeal process. So I just want to give our final thoughts about the movie. I thought that the actors were good. It starred It starred Bella Thorne as Michelle. I think that the depiction of mental health issues were alright, considering it was a Lifetime movie in short. I also think that it was a creative of them to start off with the court scene, then transition to what led to the death of Conrad. I also like that they were pretty accurate in the movie when it comes to the true case. As I stated before, this movie was based on the true story of Michelle Carter and Conrad Roy. He was 18 when he died, and she was his 17-year-old girlfriend. She was charged with involuntary manslaughter. She served only 11 months out of the 15 months with 5-year order probation. According to Google, she is living a low-profile life. There is a 2022 miniseries called The Girl from Plainsville, which gives more details about the case if you want to check that out. So this was just our review and thoughts about the film. Based on the film, in my opinion, this Tarja, I kind of think that she was, I don't think she should have been sentenced to jail for that long. I know this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think they were both not in a good mental state. Therefore, she shouldn't be the solely blamed for his death.
Yeah, this Toya talking. I feel like morally she's scum by encouraging him to kill himself instead of her telling others. In my opinion, I give her 40% of the blame and him 60% because she could have prevented or got him real help. She could have sought help for herself too. I also feel like he had a good support system around. It would have been great if he leaned on them instead of Michelle in hindsight.
I think a lot of people still struggle with mental health, and if you are, please seek help. And ending your life is not the solution or the right answer. I think the court sentencing should have been court-ordered therapy and probation. That's why I feel like she should have been sentenced.
Me, I feel like it should have been additional court-ordered therapy, not just therapy.
Right, yeah. These are just our opinions. What do you think? Do you think she should have been charged or not charged? Subscribe to our channel, like our video, and thanks for listening to Reflect. Bye.
Bye.